Alright, so this is round one of the Vintage Playoff. I'm playing Dark Petition Storm. And yeah, I think this is a good hand. I think it's pretty obviously a keep. We're on the draw, which is unfortunate, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana on turn 1, so don't have quite enough mana to win the game on turn 1, but we're actually fairly close. Interesting, we're playing against an Astrolabe strategy. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Maybe Paradoxical Outcome or something. I haven't seen this card in Vintage really yet, but... Alright, well that lets us win on the first turn. So... Right, because... Or at least lets us do something powerful, I'm sure, because we have... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So... Problem is we're a little bottlenecked on colored mana. So if we get down to 5 mana, what could we tutor for? We can't tutor for Time Twister. If we get Yogg-Will, we go down to 2, up to 5. We might be able to put Necropotence into play, right? If we do that. So it would be Dark Ritual down to 2 black mana, tutor for Yogg-Will. No, we'd still be a black mana short. So I think what we're actually supposed to do here is just get an island and cast Ponder and see where we go from there. And then maybe we can find a discard spell or something, which would be a reason to get a black source probably. Oh, there's a Time Walk. Time Walk seems fine to me. It's not like people always like kind of say Time Walk's not really that good this deck. I'm not gonna play out this Soul Ring to save ourselves mana. People always say Time Walk's not that good in this deck, but to me it's like 0 mana Explorer, which is a pretty powerful effect, with the upside of you just win, just doing something extremely powerful with Necropotence or Bolas' Citadel or Empty the Warrens. The third Astrolabe, jeez. So I think it's probably reasonably safe to assume our opponent is playing a counterspell deck. They suddenly have a lot more mana than they had before. Deck faded. Okay, that's kind of annoying. So that's the downside to playing out your artifact mana, is that your opponent can seal with deck faded. But I still think it was an okay play. And I tapped it so my opponent could not use the 2 mana from it this turn with the Arkham's Astrolabes. So let's go ahead and lead with Time Walk and see if this resolves. Probably supposed to play it on Daze. That's a card that is played often enough. So here I'm going to fetch for an Underground Sea, which makes me think I'm probably supposed to just fetch for an Underground Sea the first time. There's a Dark Ritual, which I think we don't want. I think we want a Piece of Disruption. All right, so we're going to go to our next turn, and maybe this Ancestral Recall will bait out a Forcible from our opponent. It did. Okay, so Pitching Force. So now can we do anything? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So we're still kind of bottlenecked on black sources. But we have a land drop left this turn, so I think Yawgmoth's will let us do powerful things. So let's hope our opponent doesn't have a counterspell. I'm going to lead with this one because this is a bottleneck for us. And if they have another Forcible, they have another. If they have 3 Forcibles as their hand, then we're pretty unlikely to win this game. So let's just look at our deck, make sure there's nothing better we could be doing. Dark Petition would let us convert black mana at the cost of 2 mana. So we currently have 1, 2, 3 up to 6, and then we cast Dark Petition, go down to 4, Yogg-Will down to 1. So would Dark Petition let us win with Yawgmoth's Will? Because we get it, right? And then it makes a black mana because of how Spell Mastery works, which is a different thing that it doesn't happen in Legacy that often. So 1, 2, 3, 6 mana, and then Dark Petition would make us go down to 4. Yawgmoth's will make us go down to 1, up to 3, Demonic Tutor would be up to 4. So that wouldn't quite work. I think we're supposed to just get Yawgmoth's Will to start. Okay, they didn't have another counterspell yet. So I think we can actually just win now by tutoring for Tendrils of Agony, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So replay my land for my graveyard, which is something that Past in Flames can't do. And then we can Demonic Tutor. My muscle memory is not as good with Vintage Storm, so it sometimes takes me a second to see all the lines. Yeah, after concedes. Cool. So our sideboard today, we have some Pyroblasts, which are good against like Lavinia as well as counterspells. Defense Grid is obviously strong against our opponent's deck because they're just a counterspell deck. I also like Empty the Warrens against this deck. They oftentimes can't just beat a few goblins. And then Chain of Vapor is the kind of the card I'm considering. The problem is it's not really that good, but they do play a lot of cards that are hard to win through. So if we kind of have room for it, I don't mind bringing in a Chain of Vapor. So I don't love Bolas at all. It's bad against Shatters. It's also bad against Dak Faden, and I also don't really like Tinker against their deck because it's bad against Pyroblast, and because you have to sacrifice as part of the cost, I'm just not super interested in playing it. So I usually board out these cards. For that same reason, or not the same reason, but I also don't really like Time Twister against like Narset and about Million Pyroblasts, so I often board that out. Hurkyl's Recall can come out. They're just not playing Sea Resistance because they're a fair blue deck. Sorry about my dogs. And then I also don't really like the top deck tutors against these decks because they're just card disadvantage. You don't really want to keep going down cards. So we are boarding out a lot of good cards, or like a lot of cards that are business, and that is one issue. And then for that same reason, your plan isn't really to go super fast with Lions of Diamond, so I oftentimes board this card out. And then other cards that I think are medium are Lotus Petal. And the Preordains are fairly medium just because of Narset, but I think I'm okay leaving them in, or leaving it in because it casts Pyroblast. So we're going to just stick with 1 Chain of Vapor for now because we have the 1 in the main deck. And we also have a Collective Brutality to answer Lavinia, 3 Pyroblasts. But if we see a bunch of Stony Silences or something, maybe we'll go ahead and bring those cards in. So you're kind of just trying to set up for a slower kill with Yawgmoth's Will. Not Past in Flames. You get to play better Past in Flames. So this hand's really strong. So it has Library of Alexandria, which is sometimes a trap card because sometimes you're not supposed to just stay on Library, but, you know, this hand is fine anyways if this is just a basic land, and this could just win us the game on the spot. So it's going to at least draw us 1 card. So we're basically starting off with a 9-card hand because we're going to go turn 1 Library, draw a card. And that's just strong because we're playing against a fair blue deck. Their clock isn't that fast. They're kind of trying to grind you out with counter spells, and it's just so hard for them to grind you out when you have Library of Alexandria in play. So they do play Wasteland and stuff, and can also just do powerful things. Like sometimes they draw so many cards that they don't even care about Library. So Library also can be strong with Duress. You just keep taking all their cards. So we're not going to activate Library now because I don't want to discard the hand size. This might be a Lavinia or something. No. Time Walk. Okay. Not the scariest Time Walk I've ever seen, but again, that's the kind of the power of Time Walk, is it's pretty flexible. It's just a Blue Explorer is a powerful enough card. The 0 mana Blue Explorer is fairly powerful. Narset. Okay, well, we don't need to draw a card yet, so because this actually is only more than 1 card per turn. So as long as we're activating Library on our opponent's turn, we'll get to draw an extra card every turn. So they revealed a Force of Will. All right. Well, we're going to start kind of disrupting their hand a little bit with these Duresses. There's an Into the Warrens, which is suddenly a way to win the game, which is nice. So we'll Duress our opponent here. This card is just strong as, like, you know, they have the Mental Misstep. So we know they also have Force of Will. But that's still traded for a counterspell, which we're okay with. It's just like a double impulse while also being the static clause is so good in Vintage. So I think this card is one of the best cards in Vintage for sure. Real Arkham Astrolabe. It's a new card. That's actually why I'm playing Snow Basics today, because this card, a really powerful Magic card. Kind of funny how having the cost of a card made it way better. Who would have thought? Uh-oh, they also found Ancestral. Okay. This is what I'm kind of talking about, is that they just kind of outcard your Library of Alexandria. But, I mean, we've taken 1 turn, so I think that we've made correct plays so far. We just haven't really gotten to do much. So a DAC would be pretty scary here because they could start DACking us, I guess, if that's what they were interested in. God, are they a Paradox Outcome deck also? I'm not really sure exactly what our opponent's got going on. We're getting pretty close to being able to win the game here. I'm just going to fire off another Duress here. Yeah, they do have days, so I probably should have respected days that one game. Last game, I mean. Okay. They were supposed to just activate library again on their end step. I guess we might as well fetch here because we Brainstorm and Ponder are not good cards to draw anymore. So normally I don't really like fetching to thin. But it's a good draw. Normally fetching to thin I think is not worth it if you still have your Brainstorm or your Ponder in your deck. But since Narset turns off your ability to cast Brainstorm basically at all, and Ponder is much less effective, and we have another fetch land in hand, I think that clearing out a land with this Polluted Delta is fine because those small margins can add up a little bit faster in Vintage with, faster games and lower land counts. They top, that's scary. Oh, they found Time Twister. Well, now we're going to lose. That was kind of unfortunate that they found that card. But what are you going to do? So, I think I'm down to just resubmit. I think that we were pretty likely to win the game on the next turn, but or get close to winning the game. But our opponent found the thing about Time Twister is that you just discard your entire hand because they have an Narset in play, and they have 7 cards. So maybe I wasn't actually going to lose, but I'm going to concede anyways. So maybe they're more of a combo deck than a fair blue deck. So maybe this Empty the Warrens is not that good, and maybe Chain of Vapor is better. I don't know, I still kind of like having Empty the Warrens against them having a lot of counter spells because they do still have a lot of counter spells. That was definitely unfortunate though. I think we submitted, yeah. We're just waiting for our opponent to also submit. They might be making some sideboard changes or something. Not sure which ones, but yeah, Narset is probably like not the best card in Vintage right now, but it's probably like the best engine, if that makes sense. Like, it's the card that makes the most sense to build your deck around, and it leads to some pretty. It's just like such a powerful card because like the static ability is really powerful, and then like 3 mana is a lot easier to cast in Vintage, especially since blue is already the best color in Vintage. So blue is not as hard as like Leovold was to cast because green and black were, especially green was not necessarily a premium color before Leovold. And it's just double impulses, like, and the cards you're finding with Narset and Vintage are so powerful. All right, well we're gonna keep this hand. It's a little slow, but we're going to keep it. So I'm actually going to lead with Duress here with the plan to turn 2 Defense Grid. I like leading with Duress because your opponent has more powerful cards in Vintage, and so you don't really want to save your discard for your combo turn as much, just because they have proactive cards that are really good too. Yeah, like our opponent was going to cast turn 1 Narset, so I think that we're supposed to just take the Narset here. There is an argument for taking Black Lotus, and that takes away all of their mana, but they have 2 cantrips and Moxen and stuff in their deck. So I think I'm the most interested in just taking the Narset and letting them have a lot of mana with the Lotus. Just because, like, our hand's pretty slow, because our current plan is to turn 2 Defense Grid and then turn 3 cast 2 Preordains. So if our opponent just finds a Moxen or whatever or something off of these cantrips, we're just kind of screwed anyways, so... And a land, obviously, but they're on the draw, so... So I actually kind of think I misevaluated what matchup this was. I think that our opponent's playing a combo deck, and I thought that they were not playing a combo deck. I thought they were playing a control deck. And so, like, that Library of Alexandria hand is much, much worse against a combo deck, because we're just going to sit back and draw a few cards, and then they cast Ancestral Recall and our set Time Twister, and it's like, oh, well, shoot, I wish I would have maybe played this game a little bit differently. This hand's not great, but I think having Defense Grid is strong. So I like to keep most hands with Defense Grid against blue decks. They no shuffled. Okay, hopefully they're not doing something broken with Lotus on turn 1. Oh, they are. Time Walk. Okay, well, that's not the most scary thing, I guess. I think this is the island they played also, so we know most of the cards. Not most of the cards. They've played most of the cards that we knew about. They've played 6 cards in turn 1, so that is what Black Lotus lets you do, but... We're going to play their land first, then play Archiv's Astrolabe. And Preordain again. Okay. So they're probably setting up for a pretty powerful thing at this point. I'm likely to just tap out for Defense Grid on my next turn. They could have days, but the question is, do I want to fetch a red source or black source? Like the Underground, like, what land do I want to fetch here? I think that's, depends on what we draw. Well, now I'm just going to use this land, because I'm planning to cast 2 cantrips next turn anyway, so I'll play Defense Grid, which is pretty slow without a Moxen, but we're not really doing anything yet, but, you know, I think that we're pretty likely to win on our 4th turn if these Preordains are kind to us, so we'll see what our opponent's up to. Obviously, if they play in our set here, we're totally screwed and we're going to lose, but... So they do have 3 mana up, so they can cast a Force of Will at this point. Right, there's a Dark Vision, which is a good draw. Dark Ritual, Mana Crypt. Well, I like those cards. So they could have Force of Will, which I think is okay. I think that we're not going to play around it, really. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So we can put Necropotence into play here, which is what I'm going to try to do. And if they have a Force of Will, they have a Force of Will, but whatever. Or Daze. Yeah, they're going to Force of Will this. Or spell. No, it has to be Force. Mind Break Trap. Okay, that one's good too. I probably would have saved the Mind Break Trap. Maybe. It's interesting what you want to do. Alright, so we're going to keep kicking... We're going to keep clicking Tails for this, because Tails never fails. Collective Brutality. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and dress my opponent now. Force, Force, Power Blast, so we'll take Force. So they can cast as Power Blast, so we're kind of a weird spot right now. But they don't have anything good going on yet, but, you know, they have good cards they could draw. Their 1-land hand very quickly turned into a 3-land hand. They draw Jace? Oh, they drew Outcome. Okay. So Defense Grid got a lot worse because our opponent just used their cantrips to find lands. It's fine. But they don't get to cast a counterspell this turn, so hopefully we draw something good. Outcome is traditionally your worst matchup is Dark Petition Storm. Trying to think about what our best draws are. We don't have too many good draws. We're in kind of a pickle. Because I kind of put my opponent on not having found 3 pieces of free counterspells in addition to multiple lands in like their 2 draws or 2 turns, but Vintage is a powerful format with powerful cards. Ooh, that makes us have a lot less outs. That's my bird screaming. Bummer. Because now they can turn off Spell Mastery, but... They have to just crypt here, yeah. Opponent keeps kind of drawing the perfect card every turn, unfortunately, which has been a little tough, but... so they have Pyroblast as well as Force of Will, so we want to get a card that's good against those cards. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Like, Empty the Warrens is so unlikely to do anything here, but it gets around Force of Will plus Pyroblast that it's just such a slow clock. But maybe we can, like, mini Empty and then at some point mini Tendrils, but we can't even cast the Empty as it stands. So... we could get another defense grid and then hope to draw something good after that. But they'll just Force of Will the defense grid probably. This is tough. Could get Gitaxian Probe and just draw a card. I think we're supposed to just get defense grid and really hope that our opponent doesn't draw anything good this game. And then hope that we have a really strong draw, like I don't know, a Time Twister maybe or something. Because one thing about Defense Grid is it does limit your opponent to one counterspell per turn. But they can already... I guess maybe Defense Grid is wrong because they found the Soul Ring. They keep drawing the best card every turn that they can, it feels like. But they haven't killed us yet, so... not the best card. That's the thing about Vintage, though. There's a lot of powerful cards that you can draw. Oh, they found a Narset. Okay. It's probably going to find them something good. Yeah. Well, this is our worst matchup, so... I'm not super surprised that things are not going well, but... Another Tormod's Crypt, okay. It's like now we can't even Time Twister. I just don't know what we could draw to win this game through this Tormod's Crypt. It's gonna be hard, but they're just gonna go ahead and outcome next turn. It's gonna be tough. I think we're mostly dead. Well, that could help. I wish they wouldn't have played that Narset, but I just don't know what even works here. Like maybe Necro is our best card. It's really slow. But it's the only card that really favorably interacts with our opponent here. We can't even cast it yet, but it gives us an out to eventually cast something. So I think we're just going to get Necropotence. Mox Opal, yeah. I imagine we're just going to lose the game to Paralysis Outcome here, but we'll make our opponent do it. We can sit here and talk about things. I'm not sure what to talk about, but we didn't draw any Pyroblast this match, but we wouldn't have been able to cast the Pyroblast if we had drawn them. Yeah. I think that this deck we're playing against is basically the reason that the deck we're playing, Dark Petition Storm, stopped being a deck, like, or stopped being competitive. Like, I've almost never won this matchup, so it's just so tough because the way they interact with you is just so favorably. You're basically just playing a mirror where all of your opponent's cards are the same but way better. It's like the Dark Vision Storm is set up to be a little bit slower and a little bit more resilient against like you're way better against Null Rod, you're way better against Pyroblast. You're not playing a bunch of card disadvantage spells like Force of Will, but you as Dark Vision Storm, you don't have any way to punish your outcome opponent for doing those things, while also just being very weak to that strategy. They have 13 cards in hand. I think we could have won probably if they just kept drawing 0 mana ways to interact. Like they drew Mindbreak, Trap, Force, and then Crypt, and it's like, I think that if they drew like one less of those, we're in an okay spot, but they did keep drawing them. They drew another Paradoxical Outcome. They're drawn to 17 cards in their deck, which makes me think it's unlikely that we win, but I might as well keep playing it out. It doesn't take actually that long. So maybe I misevaluated the matchup here. Like, I would have boarded a little bit differently if I'd known they were playing Outcome. Which the Astronally probably should have been a giveaway that they were playing Outcome, not Xerox. Kind of hadn't seen this version of Outcome before. So it wasn't really on my mind. With lots of basics, and actually, it was a good idea. I mean, I don't really know how you have room for this card, but... This might be a third Outcome. Maybe they'll deck themselves on accident. Oh, grape shot. Interesting. Okay, well, good game. Cool. Well, I'll see everyone for the next round.